Good morning, computer art students. Today, all I strictly want to do is show you what's possible for creating an environment, original environment from scratch. Okay. Some of you have been thinking about and playing around with just images, finding images off the net and just using that for your backgrounds. But part of the criteria for this project is I want you to think about foreground, middle ground, and then background. Okay, what's happening in the space that's going to really create kind of a dynamic scene with depth. Okay, so starting from scratch, what we're going to do is we're going to play around with some gradients and the shape tools and texture. Maybe manipulate some of the texture from a picture. Blend modes, shadows, and then we're going to put some Gaussian blur from the filters on the shadows and things. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to do this morning, and not a whole lot. I just want to show you what's possible. Okay, so let me start from scratch and just we'll see where we go. Okay. This could be overwhelming and daunting. It doesn't have to be. It's you really using your imagination and creativity to just paint. It's like you're in a painting class and you're using Photoshop to paint with the tools that you have. Okay. So when I started this, I said, what kind of scene do I want? What kind of environment? I wanted some kind of jungle, kind of grassy scene. When we look at examples, we can see that some artists, they have a specific goal in mind, and they use the tools and design principles to get themselves there. With this one, this artist has used brushes for the birds and kind of a vignette effect to darken up the corners, and I'll show you all that. And then probably, you know, these clouds could have most likely been done with a brush as well. Some of this debris that's blowing off the tree is also a brush. So you can really doctor up photos and really create your own landscape strictly from the tools we have from Photoshop. So with the background, let me just show you what happened here is I just created a gradient. Okay, so here's from dark to light. I know I wanted this kind of some kind of outer space, kind of dark scene at the top. So we know in atmosphere, if we look at the sky, if we look at pictures online of landscapes, that the atmosphere is darker at the top and it gets lighter as it gets closer to the surface of the earth. So that's what I wanted to try to achieve. Now if you're wanting to go for a sunset, maybe you want to choose those colors within the sunset, and that is you know, over in your gradient tool, and then you just click on this to choose the colors you want. So you double click on this box and then choose the colors of the sunset, or you could choose one of the options they have up here. This would probably be a good sunset color, just for example. Now I started to build in, so there's gradients. Let me go back. Let's talk about shape tools and texture. So with the shape tools, I decided, well, I kind of want this creature to be sitting on a hill. So I applied a circle, just using the ellipse tool, and kind of created that ellipse right through there off the edge of my paper, or edge of my picture plane. And then I applied a soft light blend mode to it to make it look like it's kind of blending into the layer underneath. Then I started to work in some other textures. Okay, so multiple layers of texture. So I just grabbed chunks of grass from my original picture and I just kind of fit that in for texture. Okay, and it's not perfect. You can see there's some issues here, but and then I duplicated the layer. Notice on this layer I applied a multiply blend mode to this so that it looks, if I can go back to normal, this is what it looked like normally. So I wanted to change the color up a little bit and kind of blend it, make it more of a blended with the background. Then with layer 5, I added another one, and this time I put a color dodge blend mode on it. The blend modes are up here, color dodge is there. I wanted to brighten it up a bit, and that's what dodge does. It highlights the lightest areas and just kind of highlights everything, kind of makes everything brighter and lighter. copied it again. Here's another one. This has a normal blend mode to it with the opacity of 60. Okay, there it is. So I wanted just to make it look a little more real, but I still wanted those colors, okay? Let's see where we're at. So we talked about blend modes a little bit. Let me just go down the line and we'll continue with shadows and then Gaussian blur and filters. Let's see what we have. Let's talk about shadows. So look at this layer 6. With the blend mode of darken, I wanted to create kind of this darker, foreground. And that's what we're talking about. We're really building in the foreground right now. And it's darker in the corner, and what I did was I just created, let me just close these down here so you can see it. I created the shape, and then I applied, a little bit of, I probably erased a little bit. I just created a shape, again with the ellipse tool, and then I just probably erased it to reveal some of the texture through there, because I want that texture to show through. Okay, it's a full shape, but then I just erased part of it to make that texture more blended and show through a little bit more. And I like the looks of this just black and green down here. So it's a lot about experimentation, okay? And then there's a faded edge to it. Okay, so that's a lot of that is just eraser and then gradient. Or I could have maybe even took a brush. I can't remember, I did this a few weeks ago. Took a brush to it and just kind of painted in a black and just kind of brush that in so it's blacker, okay? Alright, so there's that. Shadows. I wanted to, if you take a look at my creature, my my tiger, I guess, tiger and parrot, I suppose. Alright. I wanted to, I know I wanted a sun back here, something bright that's gonna create a shadow on the ground. So I threw in a shadow down there. An easy way to do this, and let me show you how to do this, is to create a shadow. I'm going to select this layer, hold down Command, and click on this box, and then I'm going to create a new layer, and that's what I did, layer 7. New layers down here, okay? And layer 30 is my new layer. I'm going to move it just right up here, okay? I'm going to fill this with black, okay? Edit, fill with black. It's just a little trick for creating shadows. I like this. I like doing it this way, okay? But this time I'm going to just close the eye down on this so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to deselect. And with a shadow, what you want to do is apply, well, we want to flip it upside down, right? When I flip it upside down, so I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip, Vertical. There he is. Move him in place. Let me open up the eye to my tiger guy and move him down here like so. But it's not quite right. It's not the right perspective, right? It's not believable yet. So what do we have to do? We have to go to Edit, Transform. Let's warp it a little bit. Let's we can put a perspective or a distort on it. But let's warp it a bit, and because I do kind of want it to have curved with the curvy, the hill is very curved, and it's, shadows follow contours, right? They follow kind of the lines that they're sitting on. So we have to pay close attention to that if we're going to be good designers. You have to have attention to detail is what we're talking about. So I want this to be believable. Okay, so just mess around. Warp is kind of fun, but you have to know how to use it, right? You have to know how things can follow contours and how things can look believable. That's not looking too bad. I mean, I think that's, I'm getting what I want. As the perspective changes, this may be a little bigger. As look at your own shadow on the ground when there's a light that's close to you or far away. How does it change? Okay. Once you apply this, I'm just gonna let's see. It oftentimes helps if you flip over to a new tool and then click on the marquee tool and then click apply. Alright, so now we've applied the warp. I want to put a Gaussian blur on this now. I want to blur the edges. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, and I believe that's the last one on our list. So I'm going to Gaussian blur, and if you click the preview button, you'll be able to see it. Sometimes you have to click and move it up here if you want to see it in here. Click and drag and move the hand. But I'm just going to play around with the slider bar. You should see it down here in your workspace. I want it to be subtle. Okay, that looks pretty good. Nice little shadow there. And then what I think I did was put a blend mode on that. Okay, so let's just take a look. Let's go back to this layer, open it up. What kind of blend? Yep, I put a soft light blend mode on. So let me go back to this one, put a soft light on it as well. Okay, and that'll really blend it with this. And maybe that's, you could try different ones like an overlay. You're going to get different effects there. Okay, but I duplicated a couple times to get what I really wanted it to look like. This layer, I copied it, and this layer here has an overlay applied to it. This one has a soft light. So you can try different ones to get what you need to make it work for yourself. Because you do want some of the grass to show through, right? Or whatever surface texture you're working with. Okay? Let's see, other shadows. Let's see. Now, I'll show you one more gradient and blend mode effect. I wanted to darken the sky because I wanted to make it look more kind of like outer space out here at the top. So on this layer, I applied kind of a dark haze, and let me just show you what it looks like by itself. I'm almost out of time here, so we'll get to part 2 in a second. But dark gradient is, well, it's an overlay right now, so that's why we're not seeing it. I have to open this one up for you guys to see it. Okay, so see, all it's doing is darkening up my sky. Okay, let me change over to normal so you can see what it looks like. So that's the actual layer. It's just a simple gradient. I made a marquee shape with the rectangular marquee, and then I filled it in with a gradient from, well, if we go to our gradients, from a transparent to a black. So it's transparent here to a black, because I want a smooth transition. Transparent is there's no color, and it gets to black. Okay, so let me switch that back to overlay. Go back here, open this up. So we have a new, now smooth transition. It's just darker. Okay, so you have to think about little tricks like that in order to make your imagery that much more believable. Okay, part 2 coming up, guys. Good luck. Try to think about what you want to do for your environment and how you can start setting up a background. Okay, a foreground and a background. Backgrounds can be really simple. We're going to get to brushes next and really see how we can create something from scratch strictly with brushes. All right, good luck, guys. Raise your hand if you need help.